Welcome to this episode of Missy Can't Stop Home. I am your host, Judith Kambia Obatusa, JKO. Do you know that fear has a sound? Sometimes it's loud, like a car slamming its brakes right before a crash. At other times, it's quiet, like that whisper at 3 a.m. that asks, what if it happens again? Fear also has a way of dressing itself up in reason. Says things like, I just don't want to rock the boat. Or maybe this is the best I'll ever get. Or if I speak up, they will leave. It sounds wise, right? But underneath, it's the voice that keeps many women quiet. We're continuing our series on the words that frame the way that we show up in life. Season 9 of Mexican Stapper. And today, our word is fear. Fear is one of the oldest emotions in human history. It's the body's built-in alarm system. Remember when Adam and Eve ate the fruits from the tree of good and evil, and the first thing they felt was fear. Basically shame. We'll talk about shame, but fear goes with it. And they were afraid. The Bible tells us that they told God they were afraid of him. Fear is the body's built-in alarm system, like I said before. When you feel fear, your brain's amygdala lights up, releasing adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormone. Your pulse quickens, your muscles tense, and you prepare to run or fight. That's good fear. The kind that helps you hit the brakes or avoid walking down a dark alley. But then there's another kind of fear, that one that lives in your imagination long after danger is gone. The fear that keeps whispering, you're not ready. You'll fail. You'll lose again. This kind of fear does not protect. Rather, it paralyzes you. Live with that kind of fear. Does it sound familiar? Kind of fear that goes into your heart after enough disappointments, enough rejections, enough moments when you were told or shown that your needs don't matter. You start to shrink so peace can stay. You silence yourself to keep the illusion of connection. We call it compromise, but really, it's survival. This is a fear that lives in women who have been through or who are inside tough relationships, romantic, marital, or otherwise. This is the fear that if they Draw boundaries will be abandoned. If they show strength, will be called difficult. It's the fear that if they decide to leave, they'll be blamed for breaking something was already cracked. And slowly, that fear rewires your self-esteem. You forget who you were before the apologizing, before the over-explaining, before the walking on eggshells. Psychologists tell us that fear is a survival instinct. Like I said before, it's actually meant to protect us. That good fear. But when fear starts protecting your comfort zone instead of your well-being, it's no longer a guardian, it's a jailer. There's a line in Maya Angelou's book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. A line that says, caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown with longed for skill. That's what fear does. It cages your voice, yet deep down, something in you still longs to sing. Many of us stay quiet to avoid conflict in the trenches of our lives. We think that being easy to love means being smaller than your truth. Fear can actually make you believe that keeping the peace is godlier than speaking the truth. What the Bible tells us in the second book of Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Notice these words: power, not control; love, not appeasement; love, not eye service; a sound mind, not anxious overthinking. We see this in stories everywhere. In The Color Purple, the book and the movie, you can see Celie. She lives in fear for most of her life. Fear of her husband, fear of God, fear of her own voice. But the moment she stands up and says, I may be poor, I may be black, I may even be ugly, but dear God, I'm here. That moment is when her healing begins. Fear lost its seat at her table. I read once that the phrase, do not fear, appears in the Bible 365 times, one for every day of the year. It's like God anticipated that we'll need a daily reminder. And we'll be faced with fear every day. And that we'll need to be reminded that we should not fear. I've learned that fear often disguises itself as wisdom. Remember what I said about it coming as if it's about reason. It says you're just being realistic. You're just being cautious. But deep down, you know the difference between being careful and being controlled. Fear tells you to shrink. Faith invites you to step forward to the podium of your life. Remember, God has not given you the spirit of fear. Maybe you live through these fears I'm about to list. The fear of starting over after a painful breakup or a terrible toxic relationship. The fear of failing your children, of not being the mother that they need. Fear that no one will want the real you. Or is it the fear of being seen as too much, too emotional, too loud, too opinionated? I've heard that one. But one thing is that fear is loudest when you're closest to a breakthrough. When you are close to your breakthrough, presence is magnified. Fear's presence tends to want to magnify itself to distract you. Just before Peter stepped out of the boat, the wind was loudest. Before Esther spoke to the king, the heart was pounding hardest. And before Jesus calmed the storm, the waves were at their wildest. Fear always shows up before freedom. And that's one of your signs. When you are seeing yourself almost overwhelmed with it, know that your breakthrough is around the corner. It is a test, but you have what it takes to pass it. So, if fear has been sitting in the driver's seat of your life this week, I want you to notice how fear talks to you. How has fear been talking to you? When does it show up? What words does it use? Whose voice does it sound like? And then I want you to respond out loud. Even if you are trembling, say, not today, fear. I have power. I have love. I have a sound mind. I want to tell you one thing. You don't have to be fearless to move forward. You just have to move with faith. So, three things that you can do. Name the fear. Say it. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of being forgotten. Because when you name it, you strip it of its power. You strip it of its secrecy, because in its secrecy is where its power is magnified. Then, when you've named it, trace its origin. When did this fear first start speaking to me? You ask yourself, was it a childhood moment, a heartbreak, a loss like me losing my firstborn? Tragic losses could do that, but when did the fear start? Then do one more thing. Counter it with truth. Counter it with truth. Write one sentence that begins with, even if, and then you fill in the blank. Even if I fail, I'll learn. Even if I'm afraid, I'll still move. Even if I grieve, I will still keep living. And if you can whisper it before bed each night this week, whisper these words. Fear is loud, but love is louder. Faith is louder. My sister, I don't know what your fear looks like today. Maybe it's the fear of loving again, the fear of leaving, or maybe it's the fear of starting over at 50, at 40, 50, or 60. But one thing I can tell you is that the same God who gave you courage to survive will give you courage to thrive. You can live again. You can laugh again. You can trust again. And if you can believe this, know that mercy won't stop you. Next week, we're going to talk about something that often hides under fear. And that quiet heat that's inside so many of us women that are living in the trenches of life. Women who have smiled through pain, stayed silent to keep the peace, or being told that their feelings were too much, that they are doing too much. That's quiet hits inside you. We're going to talk about it. If this episode resonated with you, my sister, do me a favor. Please share it with another woman who will benefit from it. And if you like us to support you with prayers, leave me a message through the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.